Ready. Stand by.
Hi, I'm John, one of the creators of LASR. LASR stands for Laser Activated Shot Reporter, and it's an app that allows you to get instant feedback on your shot placement and time to enhance your dry fire practice. LASR works with any phone, tablet, or computer and utilizes webcams or built-in cameras to watch your targets. LASR also works with any laser trainer, such as laser inserts for your real firearm or training pistols.
Go!
You can use nearly anything as a target, including picture frames, printouts, or targets from the live range. And you can use as many targets as you want.
Left. Right.
LASR provides feedback on where you hit
Miss.
and how fast you were. It also offers a wide variety of features and modes, with more being added with regular updates and improvements.
Correct.
LASR is extremely flexible, allowing you to practice how you want, when you want, where you want. Use it to stay sharp between range sessions, and use it to practice things you can't do at the range. But hey, you don't have to take my word for it. There's already thousands of shooters just like you using LASR to get more value and fun from their dry fire practice.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Reload. Shooter ready. Stand by. Threat.
Chest. Circle.
Fire.
LASR networking allows you to connect multiple devices together to provide synchronized controls and feedback. This can be used for multi-directional or multi-room shooting, such as complex courses of fire or shoot houses. LASR networking is simple to set up and easy to use, and it works on any device.
Miss.
Use it to practice for the next match, or turn your house into a multi-room training scenario. The possibilities are limitless.
fast car in qualifying, having some pretty good speed, but we were honestly really, really good. Definitely a top 5 car. The 97 was handling really well. I'm hoping for a really good run. I feel like we have a car that can run up funnel today, and if we just continue to make the right adjustments and make the right moves, I think we'll have a good shot of ending up up front.
Hey Sam, it's Friday. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you, Ben?
Not too bad. I think we're gonna make it out of the week. That just means I ran out of time to get stuff done. How about yourself?
Yep, that's exactly what that means. There's
Good deal.
too much to do and too little time to do it.
There you go. That's how it is when you have families. But
Yeah.
at least we're here to do stuff, right? I mean, it's a good Friday. How's your neck of the woods when it comes to the weather? You guys have anything planned for the weekend?
No, I don't think we have anything crazy. It's been hot all week and temps finally dropping a little bit. So
Okay. I think we're getting some of that humidity. It's building up here and I guess North Texas. So we're running about, if I look at about 81 right now, but that's what it is. It doesn't mean that's what it feels like. So I'm sure it'll get more exciting as we go.
yeah. I think it's like 70 degrees outside right now, which was really nice compared to the 100 degrees we've been seeing yesterday.
Well, then you can just pop the corn right on the stalk, right?
Yeah, we've got farmers scurrying now. Let's start planting.
There we go. All right. Well, what do you want to do? We got. I don't know if we have any questions for the week. Did you have anything that we want to cover?
Yeah, I think there's some good basic things. Like this question, I'm new to shooting and where do I start? I mean, it's always a good fundamental question. If that's bouncing around in your head, don't be afraid to ask it,
Sure.
because one of the things is that a lot of times we don't ask questions just because we're too afraid of looking silly or ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is that you're not the first person to come up with this. We've lived it. Mankind has been around long enough that you're not unique. So
I think it's fair to say you were in the Army, you were a grunt. I was in the Marine Corps. I was a radio man attached to artillery. Whether or not we touched firearms in and there, we always had to start somewhere, right? We didn't, unlike some people, we weren't born with a gun in our hand. We had to learn from scratch, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So in fact, that's a good point. So there's part of our website. We actually have a link and we can put it up there later on in the show notes. There's actually a page that we have where if you're looking for a firearms instructor, we definitely have folks who use LASR Classic and LASR X and understand DryFire. They agreed to let us post their location. So if some of the folks who are watching the stream or are using the software want to find a firearms instructor, they can actually do that. And in fact, let me pull that up here. We'll send the link, but here's a map. And I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that okay, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we have is we have a map that shows across the U.S. And actually we have some folks in South Africa and in the, I'll say in the Caribbean that actually have offered to do firearms training, and they're actually qualified to do the firearms training. And if you have someplace close to you, you can actually see, for example, in Dallas, Texas, where I'm at, I'm close to this neck of the woods. We have a few people who've said, hey, I'm out here. I'm willing to do some training. If you click on it, you can see who that person is. And let me see if I can shut this or close this down a bit. You can actually see the person's name, where they're located, or where they might do some of their training. And if you want to contact them and ask them exactly what type of training or what their qualifications are, here's their phone number. If they have a website, you'll have it, and they have an email address as well. So there's folks out there that can do that. So I think you're right. If it's a case where you want to train, and sometimes this is your first time, like the question says, I'm new to shooting, where do I start? This is always a good place, because would you say, Sam, there's no replacement for actual instructor training and live fire training?
No, not at all. If you look at it, everything supplements that. I mean, if your end state is live rounds leaving a chamber, you're not gonna, you can't replace that by, dry fire training and instruction. But the important thing is that, when you have a tool like a firearm, understanding that each tool has a specific purpose and how to use that when it's needed and how to use it in the right way. and some tools have more detrimental effects than others. And so, knowing the more detrimental the effect the tool has, the more training you probably want to have on it. So when it comes to something like a firearm, one of the scariest things that could happen is, because it is a lethal tool, should you not know how to use that properly, the people you're trying to protect, or the whole reason you even have that firearm, that becomes a risk to everybody else. And so you can't stress the importance enough of training is imperative, that you know how to use this tool when the time comes, but it's not going to replace, the actual effects and causes of handling live firearms, like in the literal sense. It doesn't replace it, I guess, is what I should say.
And I think the big problem is right now, we've spoken to several firearms instructors. In fact, that list that we have there, we've spoken to some of them. We've talked to the customers online who do training, some for law enforcement, some do military, some just do private training. Sure. And it's true, guns are flying off the shelf. People are buying guns left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Those instructors are also saying, but we're not seeing an interest in the training portion of it. So I think to your point,
Right.
Sam, you buy a gun, that's not the end of it all. That's just the beginning of your journey or your lifestyle as a Second Amendment community member. If anything, you don't want to take that gun with that box of ammo, throw it in the drawer by your bedside table and think you're safe. But actually, I'd say almost more dangerous, because now you're not sure how to use that, how to load it, or even operate it when you're under stress, or when someone's breaking down your door at that point. So definitely, DryFire is great, but you want to go get some training, because it's a continuum of training.
Yeah, and so as much as we want to emphasize that, instruction and DryFire don't replace live fire, when we're talking in the training aspect, it is still, those are very, very good and probably almost imperative things that need to be in place if you're going to own a firearm. For someone to just buy a firearm and go, I just want a gun because I want one, and have no intentions of training whatsoever on it, probably shouldn't have one. That's when it gets real scary.
It does become scary, if especially zero training and you think just owning one is end of it all. I'd say definitely go. We love that you buy products from us and do DryFire training, but definitely it's not a replacement for live fire and qualified instructor training.
Yes, absolutely. Those are definitely things we recommend.
Okay. Oh, here's the next one. It says, Sam, what computer specification do I need to run the software? And from that, I take it, whether it's LASR X or LASR Classic. I think we're going to focus on LASR Classic on this episode or this stream. What do you say on that when someone calls in?
So when it comes to computer specifications or device, we can do, depending on which version you go down. LASR X, you want to stick definitely, on both, I guess, you want to stick more to modern devices. You don't want to take something super old and expect it to perform well. That being said, if we're talking computers specifically, one thing I always kind of point people towards, and I'm more familiar on the Windows side of the house than I am the Mac side of the house. I think
you're good there, though. If it's Windows LASR Classic, it's probably mostly Windows customers you're going to be working with.
Sure, and a lot of times that's where I get that question a lot, is going to be in reference to LASR Classic. But if you're running LASR X even on a Windows computer, one thing I recommend is that your processor be at least an i5 or better. i5s are kind of your general run-of-the-mill processors. They get your daily needs done. They're not necessarily heavy-duty things. And I always, because maybe it's just because I'm a weird Nebraska kid, but I think of processors in the realm of truck sizes. Okay. So an i5 is like your F-150 or Chevy 1500 or something like that. It's going to get almost everything you need done on a daily basis done. But should you load that up with a heavy payload in a trailer behind it, it might bark at you a little bit more than, say, a 2500 series truck or an F-250. There's just a little more beef behind it, and that F-250 is kind of what I equate to being an i7 processor. So, but at least an i5 to make sure that those daily needs are met. That's the big thing I look at. I don't necessarily recommend, oh, get this super duper graphics card and all this
Right.
other stuff. I'm looking at the main engine of your computer. Um, and then I would recommend that we look at, when it comes to the Windows operating system. While Classic can run on Windows 7 is becoming very, very like close to the end of support life. I mean, it's so old that as soon as it falls off, even if it hasn't already falls off Windows support, it's going to reach a point to where we can't even help you, because Windows 7, I can't reach out to them and talk to Windows about it because they're like, that's super old. So we recommend you stay Windows 10 or above. We haven't seen any issues in Windows 11, and I know some people, when new versions get thrown out, they get a little more timid about going down that road, just because they're like, they're going to put something in there and it's going to jack everything up. We haven't seen it on our machines, but that doesn't mean that if you don't run into something, just to stay quiet, like let us know so that we can track down what's going on.
To your point, I just pulled up when you talk about end of Windows 7. Windows 7 support ended on January 14, 2020. I'm looking on their website. So
Oh wow.
technically Windows 7, they're still, I think you can still run it, but their support, Microsoft's official support, ended on January 14, 2020. And that's part of the reason why we're going to touch on this episode here, Windows Classic and the installer file. So we actually released an installer file back in December of last year, and we're going to go over some of those things later on in a few minutes on how to do that new installer file, because I know some of the folks out there have actually run Windows and run Classic on there, and they're getting error messages, and we'll go through that real quick. But, I think are there a couple other questions before we hit that one?
Let's see here. So, which version? We kind of talked about device specification, Windows. No, I think we can kind of hop into the new installer that we put out in December. So there's a lot of things within LASR Classic. There was a feature that you could just click to check for updates. Well, if you're running 4.2.3.0 and you click that right now, that doesn't know how to go out and reach and grab 4.2.4.0. Right, it's going to dial out, but it doesn't know what to do. So even if you say, "Hey, I checked for updates," and it's not there, if you're running 4.2.3.0, it's not going to find it.
So I think you were talking right here, right, Cam? This is where you're talking about.
If you click that check for updates, it'll say everything's up to date, but it doesn't know where to find it right yet, and we'll be working on polishing that up here. But in the meantime, what we recommend is to get 4.2.4.0, which is free to Classic users. We're not going to charge you to put this on there. Is to would be when you originally bought your license, there's a license email that got sent to you, and it has a license key and a download link. That link is still good, and it will take you to the right installer for LASR Classic. When you click that link,
if you want, I can pull up the email that they're probably going to see when they get that. It's going to look something like this, right, Sam?
Yep. So you'll see they'll have your keys kind of up towards the top of this email, and then it has this download link button right there. Or if this, you click on this and it's not doing anything, or it's a printout, say someone gave it to you as a gift, or you print it out to have hard copies, this URL right up there, just above there, right there, that is the URL you would type in, and that will take you to our installer.
Now, I know some folks have said, "Hey, guys, it's not HTTPS. If they didn't want to click on there, they can actually click on this one. It will take them to the same page, correct? If they click on this button here."
Yes, it'll take them to the same installer. Okay. And rest assured, all of our security certificates are up to date. And they're good.
Let's see if we're there. Yep. In fact, I'm going to bring up the window here. Even though it says HTTP on the email, the URL it'll come up to, and we'll share that here in a second. Let me pull that up. Is going to show here. So you can see here it does go to HTTPS. That's where it actually does go to. So it's a secure one.
And you'll see up in the top right-hand corner of your screen, Ben, there's the version number.
Okay.
And that version number, that will tell you which one you're installing, which right now the only one you're going to see is the current one.
Right.
So, and then
if they were going to check to see what version they were on, before, they would go
Right.
here and they could clearly see that the version that we were on was 4.2.3.0.
Right.
And we're saying if you go to the installer location, and I keep flipping between screens here,
Sure.
you would actually see that the latest version that they can pull down is 4.2.4.0.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. And so, and we had talked a little bit about where to find that in our last cast was, within LASR Classic, what to find what version you're running on. So this installing the newest version is always a good idea, but there's two major cases that we've seen in which we get contacted about it.
Right.
The first one is that they're getting an error message pop up when they open up LASR, and it just says, it looks like you might be a victim of pirated software.
Right.
It's just that's a check that the system's going to throw. That is an indication that you're running an older version and need to install the newer version. So then you can go back to the email. If you don't have that email, that's really okay. Just shoot us an email at support@laserapp.com and say, this is the email address associated with my license, or here's my license key. Can you guys email me my license information, and we'll send you the license key as well as that download link, so everything's right there for you. We have no issues doing that whatsoever. So the other instance would be and this is a big one, is people upgrade their computers and they want to move it to a new computer, and that would be another instance that you're going to need that link, and you would install it the exact same way. Now, when you are installing over an older version, you don't need to worry about uninstalling anything. Just let the software, the installer, do what it needs to do, and you'll be good. And if you run into any weird, quirky stuff, give us a call, and we'll get you squared away.
So do you want me to go ahead and do the install here as we're talking?
Sure. I mean, you can, yeah. So if you
Okay.
click that install button, it'll.
You know what? Also, part of it, one of the error messages that some of the folks have said, people's eyeballs are probably clicking. One of the
Yeah.
error messages they mentioned having seen is also a message that says this. Some folks say LASR hasn't been able to see the internet for a while, even though they're physically connected. And they said, look, I'm surfing on the internet. In fact, I'm browsing right now, trying to figure out how to get to the link. What is it? That's usually an indication that you do have an older installer file that's on there, right, Sam?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
also an indication. Besides saying you might be a victim of pirated software, if you get the
Sure.
same message on your screen, it's also indicating that you're due for an update on your installer. So the same process would
Is
entail,
needed.
is needed for you as
Mhm.
well. So
Mhm.
let me do that. You were saying let's go and do that install. So we are here in the Windows, and then we're going to click on this install file.
Mhm.
And then I guess this is where they see, I don't think folks can see it because it's only a limited thing. There'll be a download notification that goes on the top window, and you can watch it finish. Once it's finished downloading,
Mhm.
you can probably see it here where the
Yeah.
dial is showing. I have a little window that's showing the progress. So once it's done, we'll go in there. Okay. Now, Sam, do I need to delete anything, or can I just install it on top of whatever I'm running right now?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't delete anything. Just let the installer do what it knows to do, and that's to take out what it doesn't need and put in what it does.
Okay.
And like I said, if you run into something weird that you know shows up, I mean, you can't ever fully eliminate that possibility in software. But if it does, just call us or shoot us an email, and we'll get in touch with you and get you squared away there.
Okay. So then what I'm going to do is we have the installer window running here. I'm going to go and pop it open, and I'll just hit install and let it run. And then you'll see a couple of screens. You can't see it on here right now because I think they're only allowing us to show one screen or one app at a time. That's a little tricky here. And then you'll see it finish installing. So I'm going to hit next. You'll watch the progress bar. It'll just go through the terms and conditions that you'll have to do, and it'll overlay it on top of your existing program. Close the other application. So it's asking to close the application. So if you have LASR running in the background, it's going to want you to close it. So I'm going to close mine right now. Okay. It should finish installing. It's going to load up all the drivers, and it'll say set up progress, set up successful. And what it's doing right now, it's booting up on my computer, the actual application itself. So this is done. I didn't have to do anything other than let the installer run. And you would say check up here on the top right. Here we go,
Correct.
4.2.4.0. So now we're on the latest version.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And now, it's, again, for some folks, again, on the older version, even though you click on install, or not install, but check for the latest version, it might tell you you're on the latest version. But that's one of the complications we tried to get ahead of with the new installer file, is to get everything up and running again. Because around the same time we released this, we were trying to get ahead of the Windows 10 updates that were coming out and the push that Microsoft was doing to get people onto Windows 11. So we tried to solve some of the issues. So if you didn't get the message, we actually released this back in December. We sent out a blast to all the licensed users of LASR Classic, I think in December. We did it in March again. I think it did in April. But I know a lot of you folks don't want to read some of the spam mail that comes through, and it may have been that notice saying, hey, there's a new installer file. So this video, if you want to look at it again, you can see where to go to trigger the email and get your license key and actually get the installer file as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Sam, that's really it. It's a matter of downloading the file, running it on top of your existing application. There's nothing you need to delete, and you're up and running. Is that really all that matters there?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a pretty straightforward and easy process there.
Okay. Good deal. And again, if you have any questions, I guess they can always call us at the office, right? Or email us. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Any questions or any comments? I mean, I know some folks are watch. Oh, here we go. What distance should the shooter or camera be from the target? I think that's always a perennial favorite, because we had that question this week as well.
Yeah. That's always kind of and it's a twofold answer, because the shooter and the camera don't have to be together. What we recommend is we start talking about two different distances, and that would be camera to target and then shooter to target. The camera to target, just depending on what camera you have. If you have a integrated camera, say you're using a cell phone with LASR X or an iPad with LASR X, we recommend mobile devices with integrated cameras be right about that 5 to 7 foot mark from the target itself. The shooter, it doesn't, for the most part, doesn't really matter where they're at, as long as they're not in front of the camera and the laser hits the target and the camera can see that laser. So for the most part, when you have things like SIRT pistols or something with a very vibrant laser, you're probably not going to have enough room inside to outshoot that. So if you're using a USB web camera, and I forgot to mention that, but say you've got an external webcam that hooks up, a lot of times you can get 15, 20 feet and it's fine. And it's not going to cause a whole lot of issues at all. So, but again, those are kind of firm recommendations, but everything does kind of start getting subjective when you move it to different environments. So you might find that in your living room, your camera can be 15 feet away, but in a bedroom, it has to be like 10, Right. So, yeah.
And what do you say? I think what we try to design the software around, or have the software, have the environment the software will work in, is in a place that's a common size for everybody. I think most people have a 10 by 10 room, and hotel room, there's probably going to be 10 by 10. So some folks like to train while on the road, getting ready for a competition. So if you think about it, keeping everything within a 10-foot operating space or operating environment, you should be pretty safe. I mean, if you're 10 feet on one wall, the camera is halfway through the room or in the middle of the room, and your targets are on the other wall, you should be fine to train.
Sure. Yeah.
And was there another question here? What type of insert should I use for my firearm? I think that's a trick question. What type of insert? Because that assumes you can only train with an insert, but you can train with other things. And while you're talking about that, I'm gonna see if I can grab something here real quick.
Yeah. So there's common inserts out there. Go on.
And I think, in fact, let me pull that up here real quick. If we go to our website, I think when they talk about the inserts, I'll go there.
Yeah, and I've got two right here too.
Okay.
So there's one by Laser Ammo. It's a Sure Strike one. That's pretty common. And then you've got the common brass one. Either one of these works fine with the software. The bigger question is what type of insert? Well, and when you have, these two types, these are striker, like the firing pin hits the cap on the back, and it emits a pulse. So make sure that it's that type and not like a bore sight where you turn it on. And I think we mentioned that last week, where
Correct.
you don't want a steady beam. And another, kind of button hook, unless you have something to add there, Ben.
No, I think that's correct. I mean, the one thing is you want to avoid a constant on. In fact, the SIRT pistols, if I pull one off the shelf here, SIRT pistols, and we work very well with SIRT pistols. They do have a setting where you have a take-up laser, which is a constant on. It stays on the moment it makes a contact. We turn those off when they ship from our store, right?
Sure.
When you pull it,
Yeah.
the laser will turn on, and that'll behave almost like a bore sight, where it's a constant on laser, and it will wreak havoc on your shot placement and your shot location on your target. We turn that off so that you only have one take-up laser that actually is a pulse, not a constant on.
Right. Yeah. And it's, and that take-up laser can cause a lot of other issues. Basically, you're going to get 2 shots for every 1 trigger pull if that's turned on within the software.
And you know what? I do want to touch on something, Sam. We get questions about, hey, SIRT pistols, and can I use it with a laser ammo cartridge or a generic brass cartridge? There's a little difference in the training. I know, you can use it the same way with ours. You can get your real firearm, render it safe, and put a laser cartridge in there.
Sure.
And some folks, that's perfect. I mean, it's a great way to get started. Other folks will have an issue with it because they'll say, well, if I get into a stress situation and I've always been taking a single shot, racking it, I might be prone to doing that in a stressful situation because I'm used to dry fire training, racking the slide each time to activate the laser or the striker so that it'll activate the laser, that they actually start moving into something with a self-resetting trigger. So those are the 2 things just to keep in mind when you're training with your hardware. It's not just your computer, but if you use a laser cartridge, whether it's laser ammo or one of the generic ones,
Right.
just keep in mind you're developing the habit of racking it. For some folks, it's not an issue. Others, they're a bit concerned about that they'll actually move to a device that has a resetting trigger on its own.
Right. And that also is another thing about the inserts when you have questions. And some people, they don't realize this, and it's not like it just is the first thing that comes into your brain when you think about an insert. You're like, oh, I can put it in my gun and use my gun to train. But in reality, unless it's a double action or a double single where you can keep pulling in double, like I shoot Glocks, and so if I use an insert, you're gonna have to do what you were saying, Ben, is you have to rack that slide because the firing pin has to reset. There's nothing in here that's gonna make your gun function, and cycle. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, I like using inserts personally if I'm doing first shot off the draw, and that's all I'm focusing on is getting out of concealment and on target. But then when it comes to multiple trigger pulls or engagements like that, because I don't shoot double action, I'm going to use a SIRT pistol to do that with.
Right. And that's true. And just for folks, I know sometimes we have folks from different levels of firearms operation and training. I'm going to show you what Sam was talking about. So I have a Beretta. We'll do an op check on it, make sure it's safe. It's empty, unloaded, nothing in the chamber. So the Beretta, I think Sam was referring to, was a double action. When he was talking about a double action, it's a case where you will actually have to set it where you can pull the trigger, and it will activate the hammer, and it will send the firing pin forward into the back of the laser cartridge. And you don't have to rack the slide on this because it's a double action, meaning you'll be able to pull the trigger a second time and it'll strike again. Whereas a single action, any other gun like a SIG P320 or some of the other striker fired guns, you literally have to rack the slide each time so it will load the striker or the hammer, and then it will fall again when you pull the trigger. Whereas a double action, it'll fall and you can pull the trigger again and you have a second strike capability there on a double action. And I think that's the major thing is it depends on the type of weapon you have, and that's part of the reason why we encourage people to go train. It exposes them to it makes them think about the type of, or learn the type of weapons platform they have and be familiar with it, because some of them are double action like this Beretta, the Beretta that you have here, where you pull the trigger the second time and you have the second strike capability. Or if you have a striker fired gun, SIGs are very popular with that. Some of them are hammer fired, but you have to literally rack the slide. You can see how it loaded the hammer, or in that case, you would have a striker, and when you pull it, that's the only time the hammer or the firing pin would fall again. So just wanted to add that there.
Yeah, yeah, and we do have people that are that shoot, and they're good shooters, and they shoot in double action, and they're like, I mean, the most I got, it's I got a finger workout. It didn't seem. I mean, and that dude definitely blew any times that I was shooting on records and stages we did out of the water. So.
Sure. No, and I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we just want to make sure that folks are aware that you can use a laser cartridge or actually a laser trainer. It's just a matter of knowing your weapon itself and the platform. But with LASR X and LASR Classic, all you actually need is something to emit the laser, whether it's a CERT pistol or a laser cartridge from Laser Ammo or one of the generic ones, and it'll work just fine.
Right.
But I think that's really it. I mean, everybody wants to start the weekend. I think things are ready to go off here. So let's do this, Sam. We appreciate you guys joining us today. If you have a question for us during the week or anything like that, give us a call. If you want, join us again on the live stream and type in your message in the chat via Facebook, and we'll be able to answer it as well. And we are also, if you're trying to follow us, we're on a couple of social media channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube under LASR App. And then if you are a Truth Social user, we're trying to build our audience there. We are under LASR, LASR. But until next week, I guess what we'll have, we're going to take a break here and join you guys again next Friday, same time, same channel. But until then, what do we usually tell people, Sam?
Train safe, train smart, train often.
Okay, guys. Have a good weekend and take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.